about the ways that a medium-term rental can go wrong. Obviously, I am totally pro medium-term, mid-term rental, 30+ day furnished rental, whatever you want to call it. I really like that option. I've really liked it since 2017. I think it's pretty obvious because I have a whole channel dedicated to it. Also, I have the option to do short-term rentals on a couple of my properties, and I keep them in the medium and mid-term space just because I find it to be easier. And while it's less money, it's not significantly less money. There's less regulation and less demand from the tenants. So I keep it in that space. All of which is to say I'm a big fan of it, but that is not why you're here. You're here to find out the ways that it could go wrong. There's downsides to everything that you do. So for the medium term space, we may as well identify the downsides, address them, and talk about how to avoid them or how not to worry about them, why they may or may not be a big deal. I'm Erin Spradlin. I co-own Erin and James Real Estate. Anyways, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have a podcast, we have a website because we're active real estate agents in Denver and Colorado Springs. I offer consulting, so it's on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you want something like that, just email me below. There's a book for medium-term rentals. I know because I wrote it. If you search on Amazon, Erin Spradlin, American Nomads, it will come up. It is available in Kindle and paperback format. There's checklists in this book, interviews with tenants and landlords, tips on how to do your listing, tips on how to do your photos, blah, 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 blah. If you've watched this channel before, you've heard this pitch. Anyways, I think the reason why it's important to talk about the ways that it can go wrong is because so many times I see people spinning their wheels, analysis paralysis. They can't make the next move because they're really afraid they're going to make a mistake and they're going to be embarrassed in front of friends and family, or they're going to cause their family or themselves financial catastrophe, especially if you're a brand new investor. This is a fear that investors have across short-term rentals, medium-term rentals, long-term rentals. Sometimes too, you'll have an older relative that isn't familiar with this, or somebody that has strong opinions on real estate. They don't know this model, and so they might push back on you and be like, what are you doing? Which maybe you have thought it's a great idea, but they're inserting doubt in your mind. This might be less of an issue with medium-term rentals, but it was certainly an issue with short-term rentals for a long time. I had quite a few clients coming in, in 2017, 2018, where they came in, they wanted to buy a duplex. They didn't have the money for a duplex, but what they did have money for was a single family home where they lived upstairs and someone rented out the basement, or they had money for a single family home and the laws hadn't passed, or they were in a friendly area where they could do Airbnb on it. And it was actually a better situation than a duplex and having both of them rented, but they would have family members that hadn't heard of that, but had a lot of success in real estate investing. And so you were kind of working against some of those assumptions and whatnot. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but the reason why I bring it up is because people have fear around real estate investing. And it's, I think, because you can look at it and say, I know this works, or I know it makes sense, but there's so much money on the line, it's hard to pull the trigger. So I think one way around that is to think about, okay, what could go wrong, or what are the issues? I want to know everything. I want to know good and bad with this type of rental strategy. So what is the problem with it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the three cons that come to mind for me with medium-term rentals. The first con is appreciation. Let's talk about appreciation. People have very strong feelings about it, very controversial topic. I feel like there's starting to be more adoption of the fact that appreciation needs to be seen as the cake and not the icing on the cake. That real estate, like anything else, has diversity within it, and so it kind of depends on what location you're in. So if you're in the Midwest, you're going to have strong cash flow but minimal appreciation. If you are in a state like Colorado, you're going to have really strong appreciation. Your cash flow is going to be better or different depending on which model you're on. So long term is going to be the worst cash flow, medium term is going to be medium cash flow, and short term is going to be your best cash flow. But that is, in my opinion, the cash flow is the icing on the cake in Colorado. It's the appreciation that is the cake. Right now, the biggest demographic for medium-term rentals are singles and couples. So you want a smaller property. You really don't need a bigger property for those people. But then when you look at it, the appreciation isn't as good on a smaller property as it is a larger property. Obviously, they appreciate at the same rate, but if you have more money, you make more money with that appreciation if you're in a high appreciating market. So that is one con to medium-term rentals. All right, the second con to medium-term rentals is that you have to pay for the furniture. And when you're looking at something like a cash-on-cash calculation, where you're looking at basically what your investment is versus your return year over year, the furniture costs are going to affect things. And that's because when you buy a property, you have to put a certain amount down, a deposit. But if you're just doing a standard rental, you're putting your deposit down and then you're installing a tenant and they're paying it. In this situation, you're putting money down, but you're also paying for the furniture. Depending on the size of the property, depends on how much it's going to cost. Also, furniture has a notoriously terrible resale value. So again, this is another controversial topic because it's one of those things where, yes, you can hunt down every piece of furniture and probably get it for a really good deal at Goodwill or Facebook Marketplace, etc. However, time is lost doing that, and is it as nice as if you just ordered it off of Amazon and came, it's brand new. There's also an argument for waste. The furniture already exists in the world, and now you're supporting the building of another piece of furniture. But on one end, you're losing time if you are trying to hunt down everything and get it really cheaply. On the other side, you're adding to waste, you're supporting Amazon, and you also are buying something that doesn't have a very good return value. Full disclosure, I buy mine off of Amazon. It's not a company I love. I don't feel great about it, but I think time is money, and I'm just an impatient person, and I like to get renters in. My husband probably prefers to get furniture from consignment stores or people from the neighborhood. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. But I do give that caveat because I think sometimes people think to be a good investor, I have to hunt down the best bargain deal. Some people really enjoy it, some don't. And I think you shouldn't do what other people do what feels right to you. And finally, the third con is vacancy rates. This comes up all the time. How bad is the vacancy rate when you're doing month to month to month? It really hasn't been that big of an issue for us, but I do plan to do an end of the year review once we get into 2023 to talk about what the vacancy rate looked like for 2022. But the thing to keep in mind here is that if you had a long-term renter and they're only required to give you 30 days notice, then they're only required to give you 30 days notice, and then you have to find someone, or you have that gap time. The way that I write my lease and the way that you will write your lease is I write a 45-day. So I need 45 days heads up if you want to re-rent or if you're going to leave. And that gives me usually ample time to get someone else. Now, I think the concern for people that bring this up is, will there be a day or two of lag time or downtime? I really don't think it's been an issue. I think there's been a day here, a day there. I also like it because, like, for instance, our Denver properties, we live in Colorado Springs, but like our Denver properties, we will go up and use it sometimes. And that is why a lot of people want short-term rentals, is that a reason why a lot of people like short-term rentals is that they want to use that property occasionally. And so if you have gaps, or you know that a renter is going to end at this time, you can plan your vacation around it if you have a place somewhere that you want to go visit or use for some reason. And James and I definitely do that with our Denver property. So it just depends. I'm going to run the numbers again in 2023, but it really has not seemed like a big issue for us. We, for our single family home, we had college kids. Then we had nurses that rented it for the summer, and then we had more college kids. And then this year, when the college kids left, we took downtime so that we could do renovations and put it in. And then our properties in Denver, there's a 1-bedroom that we just don't use that often. So we pretty routinely have someone else come in pretty quickly. And then the other one, we utilize it occasionally for business, for pleasure when we want to be up there ourselves. All right, those are my thoughts. Those are the big 3 hangups I see with medium-term rentals. If you think I'm missing something or there's a hangup that you can think about, I'm definitely always interested in both your wins and your fails, and anything that I'm not thinking about with this. This is meant to be an education channel, and I want to make sure that everything is being covered: the good, the bad, the ugly, the wins, the money, etc. So if you have something, please let me know.